back to the Checkered Flag Podcast. I am co-host Drew, joined here with Nate. Well, we'll be not talking about the checkers and wreckers because we don't have a race this weekend. So, for the Cup Series, to clarify, but we do have the trucks and O'Reilly's at Rockingham this weekend, so that's something to look forward to. I know Nate over here has been super antsy about this weekend just because of the shirt he's wearing. We got Cleetus McFarland doing his first career O'Reilly start at Rockingham. Qualified 35th, you know, that's the expectation. But Nate, what are we thinking about Rockingham this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Cleetus to perform super well here at Rockingham. I've watched the videos, like an hour-long video of him practicing at Rockingham. It was really good to see him get that practice in, and he was able to shave time off as I was hearing some interviews with him later in the week, just leading up to Rockingham, just him talking about what to expect from him coming up this week. He's learning a lot and he's getting faster, but obviously it's just going to take laps in that car and being able to like get used to it and be able to drive the car to its capabilities. I don't expect him to get better than 25 here at Rockingham. I expect him to be in the lap
high
traffic.
Expectations. That is way too high of expectations. Come on now.
That's the highest I've got him is 25. I mean, I don't expect him to do any better than that. Just especially because like his lap times are not really anywhere inside of that top 25-ish. I mean, and if he's able to improve throughout the race, avoids any wrecks if there are any, I think that's probably the absolute ceiling for him right now. But I do expect him to finish right around 30th place, especially since he qualified 35th and, you know, isn't performing the best yet and doesn't have the experience.
I'm not going to discredit Cleetus McFarland. He's a very talented driver. He is fully capable of driving a stock car, and all of our main series minus the Cup Series is not ready for that yet. But my expectation is he's going to qualify 35th. He's going to run 35th, wreck out, and finish 35th. And I that's like, it's not a hot take because think about it this way, you know, Travis Pastrana's first career start wrecked out, you know, fresh into the Cup Series. SVG is the most special circumstance. Like no one's going to do what SVG did. I mean, that was the first time in 65 years we've seen a guy in his first ever start win the race. So, you know, that's a special circumstance, but for Cleetus, the expectation tomorrow that you guys are going to see at Rockingham is he's going to run 35th. He's going to go a couple laps down really early into the race. He's going to stay out of the leader's way. That's one thing that we're going to want to be looking at while we're at Rockingham. And then, you know, he just doesn't have the speed to really keep up. So at the end of the day, if he finishes all the laps, he's going to finish top 30 because we're going to have people wreck out. However, you know, with his performance at Daytona, you know, back in February, I mean, he obviously completely different track, but I just don't really see anything really happening out of this weekend. I think Cleetus is just going to log some laps and call it a day, and that should be the expectation. I mean, no one should expect Cleetus to run any further than he is right now, where he qualified, and I think that that's exactly what we're going to see this weekend. And going forward, hopefully Cleetus will get more starts in the O'Reilly Series, but for right now, it's all a learning curve.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that especially in this O'Reilly race, he's not going to do anything special. I think like he's said and like people have said for him, like I think Dale Jr. said his biggest thing that he can do is stay out of the leader's way. And he's going to be judged on a lot of that. I think his goal is to be able to race at the tracks like Daytona and Talladega in this kind of car. And so I think that's where he's trying to reach for. And I don't think he's going to be able to get there unless he's able to run decently and at least continuously run laps, make better lap times as the race goes on, and stay out of the leader's way. But the only thing I think he might perform a little bit better in is the ARCA race because he's running double duty tomorrow. Excited to see what that all brings. I think he's going to probably run close to around that top 15 area. It seems like that's usually where he sits at those ARCA races, unless he has trouble with his engine or something like that. And then also Ellis George is going to be running there at Rockingham too, so that'll be kind of sick seeing those two run together. Don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think George has near the speed as Cleetus does, but I do think he did get like a 13th place finish at Hickory when he was there a couple weeks ago. So maybe they get a little bit better finish. I mean, that's more of the series that's going to be suited for them to be able to perform better just because of the lack of both of their experience.
Yeah, and I think in a sense, it's like the combine, the NFL combine, where everyone in the higher series are going to be watching these drivers like a hawk because every team is going to be looking at their next driver to develop and promote over the series. And I think that with Ellis George and Cleetus getting these starts, I think it's a really good look on them. And I think that there's going to be a lot of eyes. They're going to look at them through a microscope, in a sense, just because, they're really famous. They're not really famous, but they're popular. A lot of people like them. It's good to see them in the series, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen, tomorrow when we see the ARCA and O'Reilly's races. But that's all for the podcast. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll take care.
Right, get back
Nah,
here.
I'm just kidding. But this is a special episode. I know, we always talk about the pre-race and the post-race, but with no Cup race this weekend, we didn't really have much to talk about. So we decided to make this a special edition where we're going to talk about a couple of different topics between some of the chase favorites that we're liking so far in the beginning of the season, as well as some of our hot takes. And I know some of you guys are going to be a little upset at some of our hot takes in the comments, and we would love to hear your feedback. But first off, we're going to start with the chase favorites. So Nate, take it away, man. Who are you liking so far?
Yeah, so I'm going to lead off here. I'm not going to put Tyler Reddick at 1. Just don't know. I don't know that he's got it to be able to have the longevity. I've seen a lot, especially, so here's what I keep thinking about is going back to last year, right? We had Christopher Bell. I think he won 3 races back to back to back right there at the beginning of the year, and then he kind of fell off of a cliff. I don't necessarily know that Tyler Reddick has gonna be able to do that he's gonna do the same thing. But I don't think that this is gonna be a longevity kind of thing to where he's winning consistently throughout the course of the season. I think that he's going to stay decent towards the front of the season, and then he's going to fade back into the pack, especially once the bow ties get to be faster throughout the course of the season. So my first one's going to be Denny Hamlin. I think he's got to be the best Toyota out of everybody this year. Just because he's got that experience. He came in, had a really rough offseason, so wasn't really focused getting back into the car. He said it himself, but now he's starting to hit his stride. It seems like he's starting to look like the true Denny Hamlin that we see day to day. So he's going to be my number 1. My number 2 is going to be Tyler Reddick, just because of the performances we have seen out of him. I just don't expect him to be, winning races super late into the year with the same consistency that he has to start off the year. And then my third one is going to be a little bit of a hot take, I would say. It's going to be Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott, for me, has been, one of the top performing bow ties as far as consistency goes across these first few races of the season. And I did hear a stat the other day that the last time Chase Elliott had won a race this early in the year, well, obviously this was his earliest win of his Cup Series career, but the last time he had won a race early, like the second earliest he had won, was the year that he went on to win the championship. So I think he's going to be one of my favorites, not just because of that statistic alone, but just because he's shown good speed throughout the course of the year, and he's started to be that Chase Elliott that his fans really want him to see.
Yeah, and I will say Chase Elliott is definitely Mr. Consistent, and we saw that last year. I think up until Daytona or Richmond, he didn't have a single DNF, didn't have a single finish outside the top 20, so it's not a bad pick at all. And I will say Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, I mean, those go hand in hand. Those are pretty obvious picks. But, first hot take of the podcast, I don't have Tyler Reddick in my top 3. So you guys may flame me for it, but I will say, we've seen in the past, people off to a really hot start over the course of the spring, come summertime, fall off a cliff, don't really have the winning speed that we see in the beginning of the season. And we saw that with Christopher Bell. Granted, Christopher Bell was still running top 5, top 10, still getting good finishes, but just never had the winning speed, and obviously got a little unlucky at some of those races. But I think Tyler Reddick is going to go down a very similar path. I think that there was so much momentum behind that team just because of the lawsuit win, Bubba Wallace and Hardy's combination, got a big sponsor there after McDonald's left. I think there's just a lot of momentum on that team right now, and I think we're going to start to see that fade away over time. So my championship favorite right now, hot take, is going to be Ryan Blaney. And the reason why I say that is Ryan Blaney is Mr. Long Run Speed. He has the worst pit crew out there right now. Multiple penalties, multiple times when he's been sent to the back, and he is grinded and spent 10, 15, 20 laps passing cars. I think he has the most cars passed this season so far by a large margin. And the fact that he's able to overcome so many penalties and get back in the top 10, top 5, won a race, I think Ryan Blaney is fully capable of that same exact scenario come the chase time. Just because we've seen that before. Mr. Long Run Ryan Blaney, he's always there at the end. He's going to pass you no matter what you try to do. Even if you try to beat him on tires, he's going to be there for you. And I will say a lot of the tracks that happen later on towards the end of the season, Talladega, Martinsville, Phoenix, before the championship at Homestead, those are some of Ryan Blaney's best tracks, is where he's gotten a lot of wins at. And I think we're going to see a strong stride out of Ryan Blaney as long as he makes the chase. So that's going to be my championship favorite. My second one is going to be Denny Hamlin. You kind of reiterated everything I wanted to say. Spent a lot of time this offseason just, pondering and, thinking about not wanting to get back in that car. And I think the fact that he's back in the car, he's a lot more comfortable. He's kind of getting things off his mind. He's focusing on racing. And we saw that when he got that win a couple of weekends ago. But we know how Denny Hamlin can be. We don't know what's going to happen for the chase. Still championship lists. So, I really want to see a championship out of him. I've been a Denny Hamlin. I've been a Denny Hamlin hater my entire life, and it's gone away over time. And I don't know why. I have hated Toyotas most of my life, but there's something about the storyline behind Denny Hamlin that just really makes me want to see him get a win, especially because we're not going to see him after a couple of years. I'm sure he'll be out of the Cup Series by then. But Denny Hamlin will definitely be the strongest Toyota in the chase, but there is one manufacturer I'm forgetting, and that's the damn bow ties. And my bow tie pick is going to be Mr. William Byron. And I will say, we saw this last year, won the regular season championship, was the most consistent driver during the first 26 races. And right now, I think he is the most consistent Chevy that we've seen. I know you've seen Chase Elliott be a little consistent, but William Byron has constantly been top 5, top 10. Chase Elliott floats around the top 10, top 15, still has good speed, but he doesn't have the speed that William Byron does week in, week out. And we've seen that. William Byron up there in the points. I think he's over Chase Elliott right now in points. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you, but William Byron's been the most consistent Chevy, and he has been the most consistent Chevy, and I think he's going to make a deep run into these playoffs. But, what are your thoughts on my picks? I mean, I feel like I threw you for a loop with not saying Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, when I led into the whole thing was just Tyler Reddick. I don't necessarily see him having that longevity throughout the course of the season of being able to keep these consistent wins. So I don't hate that pick. I like the Ryan Blaney call out of his pit crew, especially like they're a bottom 30, like below 30 pit crew. And he's top 5 in standings, I think, right now, number 2. So, I mean, yeah, great pick out of that. I think that's a pretty good one. And then, yeah, Willie B, you did say he was ahead of Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott just got that win, so he's sitting right above him right now. So, yeah, that's obviously he has been more consistent than Chase Elliott, though, I think, over the course of the season. And we're going to expect to see a win or two or more out of William Byron throughout the course of the season. So I like all your picks.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, looks good.
Yeah, and I will say, people watching, feel free to leave a comment. Let us know who your chase favorites are right now. I know, we got a little bit of a different list, and I think everyone's pretty much going to say the same thing. But, I'm really curious to see what your guys' thoughts are. So drop a comment below what you guys think. But now that we've talked about the chase favorites, I did come up with a hot take. So let's dive in a little bit further on that. I know you mentioned something about some of these young guns in the Cup Series that are, trying to make their strides. So, what's your first hot take?
Yeah, so my first hot take, here we got to put the hands together, right? Because these are hot takes.
We're cooking.
Yeah, so my hot take number 1.
What the hell?
What was that?
I'm sorry.
That just threw me off.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to do that. I was practicing dance moves.
What did he say?
Podcast. I'm trying to learn how to shuffle.
Lord.
So because I like to go out on the weekends and dance. That's part of my thing. But that we're gonna probably cut that out. Please do. Please.
That's making it.
I'm just gonna head out.
My hot take number 1 of 2026 is Drew is a terrible dancer.
Hey.
So for real, hot take number 1 of 2026 is going to be that Carson Hocevar and Connor Zilic get their first Cup Series win. So the reason I've got this backed up, I know, don't go too crazy on me. I got this backed up. I think Hocevar and those Spire boys have been having some good speed throughout the course of the year. Obviously, Carson Hocevar is the Hurricane. I think that his main problem is he gets up to the front of the racetrack or in front of the leaders, whatever, and then he spins out, wrecks, and then does it to himself. I do think that there's going to be one time this year, though, that he gets up to the front and he's able to just do it late enough to where he's not going to have to run too many laps as a leader, and he's going to finish and get a win this year with that speed that he's had. And then I think Connor Zilisch, I mean, especially that speed that we saw to him at Coda, he had a lot of problems, got spun out a couple times, but he had top 5 consistent speed throughout the course of that race. And I think, to be honest, like he would have been up there if there would have been a couple more laps finishing top 5 or even better than that. But I do think that he had enough speed to be able to compete with somebody like SVG and Tyler Reddick at that course. I don't know that Tyler Reddick's going to be like that at all the road courses, but I do think that Zilisch is probably the second best road course racer that we've got right now. So I do think that he could be competitive and get a win this year at a road course. But yeah, those are my first. That's my first hot take. What's your first hot take?
Yeah, I mean, before I go into that, I mean, I really like Hocevar, man, but I mean, I almost said something really dirty, but he just can't finish. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, he'll be there for the long run and then just fall off. I mean, we saw that, you know, at Charlotte, blew an engine running in the front row. We saw that at Atlanta, couldn't get it done, made a couple of mistakes. So, you know, I think Hocevar just needs to clean himself up, and we haven't really seen that. And I'm hoping to see some progression out of him in terms of, you know, just how he races around other people, because, you know, everyone's going to race dirty around him just because that's what he's been doing to them. So I think as Hocevar cleans up his act a little bit, we still want to see him be the Hurricane. I think that that's really entertaining at this point, but, you know, just cleaning it up a little bit and then getting a win, it's going to solidify his career. He'll be here long term as long as he gets that first win. But as for Zilisch, I mean, I can only see him winning a road course or a super speedway. He has absolutely zero speed at any other track, and we've seen that. He's not even top 25. Like, it's ridiculous. But I think Zilisch is one of the best road course racers in the Cup Series too. But speaking of young guns, my first hot take is this year is Ty Gibbs' breakout year. And hot take, he's in his 4th season. He is still winless in the best Toyota team. And so far, he's continued to impress me. He has gone out, has the most top 5s, tied with Tyler Reddick, the most top 10s, tied with the Cup Series. He's having the best start to a Cup season that he's had since the beginning of his career. And I'm hoping Ty Gibbs finally breaks through and gets that win, because there's a lot of people that are doubting him and you know, calling him out and saying like, oh, you're a silver spoon, like your grandpa Gibbs gave you this ride so you can fuck around and find out. You know, that's not what we want to see out of a Cup Series driver. It leaves a bad rep on, you know, the whole sport, the sport as a whole. So, you know, with how strong of a start Ty Gibbs has had, there's no doubt in my mind, you know, in the next 10 races, he's going to get a win out of one of those. I mean, he's run top 5 at every single race this year. And basically, yeah, every single race this year. I think Phoenix, no, he did run top 5 Phoenix. What am I talking about? He's definitely had the most consistent speed out of every single driver. And that's a shock. You know, if you told me that 2 years ago, I would have thought you were an idiot. But now we see Ty Gibbs finally starting to come to his senses and putting his hands on the wheel for once and actually making left turns. So I think Ty Gibbs is going to have a breakout year. I think he's going to I don't think he's going to win multiple times, but I think he's going to win at least one race and have a deep run into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I think he's going to get at least one win throughout the course of this year. And he's been consistent. Like, I don't hate that pick at all. Of Ty Gibbs to have a breakout year this year. I guess, like, the only thing I would say is, like, whatever you would define as a breakout year, if you would define it as one win or 2 wins, like, I think he'll definitely reach that. But I think if you're looking at him getting 3+ wins this year, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But yeah, I think definitely with the speed he's shown so far, 1 or 2 wins this year is not something too far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess, like, my next hot take is going to be that Tyler Reddick falls off after this first break. I mean, it's kind of like what we had talked about before, so I'm not trying to beat a dead horse or anything, but yeah, I just think, you know, 2311 has shown flashes of speed throughout the course of, you know, their time in the Cup Series. You know, like, Bubba's shown flashes of speed, Reddick's shown flashes of speed just throughout their careers so far, but none of them have been showing consistent speed, like the type of speed that we see out of a Denny Hamlin, like the type of speed we see out of a Kyle Larson or a Ryan Blaney, like those kinds of guys that throughout the course of the season, I mean, even throw William Byron in that list too. I mean, those guys are the kinds of guys you expect to win through all phases of the season. You expect them to be good at the very beginning of the season, the middle of the season, and then expect them to finish well at the championship. I think that 2311 is got the potential, but I just don't think they're quite there yet. I think they have streaky signs of promise, but I don't think they're going to have that consistent promise in speed that we see out of like those top teams like Hendrick and JGR and Penske.
Yeah, and I will say, we're not discrediting Tyler Reddick at all. Like, he's still fully capable of having a great season. We've just seen that we're familiar with pattern recognition. That's the thing. We saw this with a different Toyota, Christopher Bell, last year. So I think that that's just kind of left us with an impression that for someone that can have a really strong start to the season can fall off a cliff really quickly, and all it takes is one DNF. And Tyler Reddick, he won the 2024 regular season championship. We know how consistent he can be, but there's just that devil on my shoulder that's just telling me that there's something that's going to happen with 2311 that's going to cause him to fall off a cliff. And I really don't want that to happen. And it might, but it might not. So, it's just a hot take at the end of the day. You guys can disagree with us as much as you want, but that's just what we've seen so far. But speaking of, falling off a cliff, my next hot take is Kyle Larson is going to go into a slump this year. It's almost been 36 races since Larson has won. That's the longest winless streak he's had since joining Hendrick back in 2021. 5 years, and this is the longest winless streak we've seen out of Larson. With this new body, with this new nose, I think Kyle Larson is still a step behind from his teammates William Byron and Chase Elliott, but I'm not going to say Kyle Larson is going to go on a slump and, not make it in the chase. I'm just saying we're expected Kyle Larson to get multiple wins in a year. We're expecting him to be a deep threat into the chase. And so far this year, I haven't seen anything that really gives me the confidence to say Kyle Larson is a deep threat in this chase format. And it sucks to see. I mean, for Kyle Larson haters, it's great to see. But for me, I'm a Kyle Larson guy myself. And the fact that I'm talking down on him says a lot about this team and their performance this year. And I think Kyle Larson will still, I think they'll get their act together. Cliff Daniels is a super competent crew chief, one of the best in the Cup Series. But right now, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing in terms of the speed out of that 5 car, and I'm hoping that turns around eventually. I mean, we could see the opposite of what Tyler Reddick does with Kyle Larson. Larson off to a completely slow start, wraps it up in the summer, gets some good finishes. Tyler Reddick starts off hot, slows down. So we may see, an opposite effect there, but for right now, I'm not really liking the 5-speed.
Yeah, I mean, he has. I'll kind of disagree there. I think that he has shown courses of speed throughout the. I mean, he's shown speed throughout the course of the season so far. He's led laps at a couple different races. I can't remember if it was. I think it was Darlington, right? That he was leading some laps there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that Larson's necessarily going to go into a slump year. Obviously, just won the championship last year. And I think that just this new Chevy body has been, they had to work out a lot of kinks with them this year. So I don't necessarily he goes into a slump year, but I just don't think he performs as well as he did last year. Just because it takes a lot more, and it's going to take a lot, of adjusting to that new nose to get to where they were last year.
Yeah, and here's the thing with that is, Larson didn't win a single race in 2025 after Kansas, and that happened in the spring. He went winless the rest of the season and still got the championship because of his consistency. He wasn't winning, but he was consistent. And yes, we've seen him lead laps at Vegas. We've seen him lead laps at Atlanta. We've seen flashes, but nothing has been really concrete. And I don't think I'm seeing like consistent speed week in, week out that really proves to me that Larson has what it takes to get a victory right now. I think that, I'm not discrediting Larson. I'm not saying he's going to miss the chase like I mentioned before. I just think he's going to make the chase, but he's not going to be the threat that we see year in, year out, in the past with this old format going into the new format. But enough of that. I think I just looked at our notes and I saw a crazy take down there. I want you to kind of take it away so you guys can get my raw reaction to this.
Yeah, this is going to be the hottest take that I've got so far, and I've got some data to back it up. But I've got Trackhouse not having any playoff drivers this season. Yeah, take the headphones off. Part of this, I'll preface it. Part of it could just be that I'm a Trackhouse guy, and I'm kind of heartbroken with the speed that I've seen out of those guys this year. But yeah, I mean, realistically, the reason I have got them as not making the playoffs this year is just because you start off with Shane Van Gisbergen, and obviously, like, he is the road course savant. He's the type of guy that we're going to expect to perform well at the road courses. But I think we've only got 3 road courses on the schedule this year. So, I mean, that only gives him an opportunity. He already lost one. I mean, second place, but is there 4 road courses left on the schedule, or 3 left on the schedule? Sorry. So he's got 3 left to be able to perform well, and he's got to win those things realistically with how we see him perform at the ovals in order to be able to, get to a playoff spot and be able to actually compete in the playoffs. But I mean, we've also got a good competitor in Connor Zilic to be able to compete with him, and obviously Tyler Reddick has already won a road course. SVG didn't look like himself in that road course. So I don't know, just the speed that we've seen out of the Trackhouse guys so far. I mean, Ross Chastain, usually we can expect Chastain to be a consistent guy, top 10 all the time. But this year it seems like we can maybe count on him to be top 15. I mean, he's probably their best chance at making it into the playoffs right now, but I'm a Chastain guy, and they're not putting him in the good enough equipment to be able to perform to the best of his ability. And, it could be just the fact that they're still getting used to this new Chevy nose, and, they're just slow adapters to it. But I just don't know that he's going to be able to overcome the deficit that the other drivers, especially these Toyotas, we're seeing them start off so hot right now. It's already putting these Trackhouse guys in a deficit. And then my other one, I think the easy one to say, I think is going to miss the playoffs this year is going to be Connor Zilic. He's a rookie. I don't think we're going to expect him to do anything too crazy this year. I think we're going to expect him to, maybe win a road course race if he gets up there, maybe a super speedway if he's in the right spot at the right time. But I don't think, other than that, maybe he gets one lucky win throughout the course of the year, or a skilled win, I'd say, at a road course. But yeah, I mean, I think their best chance at getting into the playoffs is Ross Chastain, and he just hasn't showed the speed that we want to see out of Chastain this year. He's won one stage, I think, and that's it.
Yeah, it sucks to see after the, great performance they had last year, had 2 cars in the playoffs, obviously SVG with all those road course wins. But, I'm going to kind of counter you, and this may seem extremely hot take, but I think SVG is going to make it into the chase on points, not on wins. And the reason why I say that is because SVG, in my opinion, is the most adaptable driver I've seen come along into the Cup Series since Tony Stewart, or Kyle Larson. I'll say Kyle Larson, but SVG this year has really impressed me on the oval so far, and got a top 11 at Martinsville, one of his best short tracks, best ovals. But even then, before those races before, he was still running pretty solid. I mean, top 10, top 15, top 20. He's still learning, and the fact that he's already showing this much speed after a year and a half of, driving this car, it's really impressive. And I think that SVG down the road will get a couple wins at road courses that'll solidify his points gap over the rest of the people fighting for that 16th spot in the chase. And I think that if he continues to go on the path he is with all these finishes at these ovals, I think he could be a threat in the chase. Not a deep threat, but I think he would be a threat to be a lock, come summertime towards the end of August when the playoffs start. But for Chastain, I'm not liking the speed out of him. It sucks to see. I really like Chastain. I really like his driving style, but Trackhouse is not giving him the right equipment, and we've seen that at the tracks. He had to do a gutsy call at Martinsville with the tires, fell off a cliff, held the pack back for about 30 laps before they could pass him. So, I'm not really liking what Chastain's got right now. And then, of course, I feel like a lot of people overhyped Connor Zilic. I just think it's because of how much of a phenom he was in the O'Reilly series. We thought he would just be off to an extremely hot start and do the same thing in Cup. But those cars drive completely differently. And, I think Zilic is going to be a threat on the road courses, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie. This is his first full-time, season in a Cup car. And I think the expectations were set a little too high for him. I think some people set realistic expectations that he wasn't going to get a win. He wasn't going to qualify in the chase. He was just going to log laps and figure out the car as the season goes by. And, that's what we saw with SVG last year. So I think Connor Zilic is not going to make the chase, but I think he's going to be, a solid contender at the road courses, potentially the super speedways. But, that's kind of my take. I do really like SVG right now. I think he's the strongest Trackhouse car. And I could definitely see him getting more consistent at the ovals and being a lock in that 16 spot playoffs.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think like the SVG probably has the best chance of making it. Right there, probably tied with Chastain. But I just don't. I know for sure, like, I don't think any of them are going to be winning the championship this year, especially with the speed we're seeing out of them. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't, I don't know. I don't see him making the playoffs this year, just from what I've seen out of him so far. Obviously, only 7 races in, but you never know.
That's fair enough. And I will say, still got plenty of racing to go, plenty of laps to log. We're only race 7 out of 26 before the chase starts. So definitely going to see some, interesting storylines, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Checkered Flag Podcast. Feel free to follow our other socials. We started posting on TikTok and TikTok and Instagram recently, so we're starting to get some traction there. Let us know if we need any room for improvement. I'm always open for critique and anything like that. But thank you guys for tuning into this special episode. I know we didn't really have much to talk about just because there's no race this weekend. But Nate, any final words before we kick it off?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say like this video, and if there's a little hype button on there. I've noticed that they pop up on some of the smaller creators. Hit that button for us so that we can kind of be able to start promoting the content out to more people. Hype us up, and then also just hit that notification bell so you guys know if you guys like the content, you like the podcast, so you're reminded whenever we upload. We try to be consistent around Wednesdays and Sundays for when we upload, but just try to keep us in the loop and keep coming back. That's all we ask. So.
And as always, boogity, boogity, boogity!